What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel. And on today, the great April 20th. Shout out to everybody celebrating here today. I'm a responsible adult, so I gotta wait till at least after supper, and the kids are getting ready for bed, till I can partake. But I thought it makes up for a great, fun little mock draft season video, the 420 mock draft special, which is... I've done a couple runs. I literally got to run through. I got some notes here so I can kind of follow along, essentially kind of view it as a script, because I don't want to get too off the rails. But like, what is like the worst mock draft that has more than a 0% chance of not happening? I feel like on today of all days, that is what we're going to do. So we busted out the Pit Vipers. We got this blanket sweater. We got the custom Vancouver Grizzlies helmet, hat, gear right here, official 101, and it is time to do a mock draft of all mock drafts. So as we go through, the point of this is to be as bad. Try to like, and I've seen some concepts of this on Reddit already, of people like, what's the worst case scenario for your favorite team? So I've took some of that into consideration, and you know, it'd be funny when all is said and done to be able to look back on this video and see if any of these picks actually happened. So they're not all going to be mean picks. They're all, you know, there's certain good players that are going to fall to teams, and that's the meme of them, is that these players are falling. They could fall. So without further ado, we're going to start at number 1 of the 420 mock draft, and we're going to have the Jags select Evan Neal. I feel like out of all the top players they could get, right now the one that makes the most sense not to would be offensive line, because of how they've handled the contracts on the offensive line. They seem to be committing to Cam Robinson again, and it just seems like they've kind of moved off of going from tackle, and they're going to get like the best defensive player available, be it, you know, an Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Travon Walker. So I feel like at this point, worst case scenario for the Jags, they've already got their, you know, hopes and dreams up for a pass rusher, is for them to go back on the offensive line. I wouldn't put it past Doug Peterson, though, especially if he thinks Evan Neal is going to be like the second coming of Jason Peters, something like that. Second overall pick, and this shout out to Vegas, is Malik Willis going to the Detroit Lions. There has been some rumors, there's been some betting odds, for whatever that's worth, that Malik Willis could go as high as 2 to the Detroit Lions. And I think most people just assume the Lions aren't going to go quarterback this year. They're going to wait till next year. And I think, and there was a report from an anonymous GM yesterday, I think it went on Twitter, and anonymous, I mean, you know, again, how much stock are we putting into these things? But the quote was from an NFL source: throw out your mock drafts. So I think we need to get prepared for some of these things that we're about to just run through to potentially happen on draft day. And I feel like it's not outside of the realm of impossibilities for the Detroit Lions to end up drafting a quarterback this season. Number 3, we have the Houston Texans, and I have them getting, according to the Philadelphia Eagles, the second best quarterback in the draft. Actually, I believe Philly said he's the best quarterback in the draft class. There's a report from the Eagles, Matt Corral at Ole Miss. And I do think mock drafts and the draft cycle has a way of coming full circle, and a lot of times the players that are consistently mocked in the first round, like pre-college season. So like, you gotta think, before the season started, Matt Corral was consensus quarterback 1. Sam Howell was consensus quarterback 2. And I think while the mock draft community gets off these players, I think the big boards in NFL rooms don't fluctuate as much. And like, I think when all is said and done, I wouldn't be surprised to see some other teams view Matt Corral as a top quarterback, and we have him going to the team in Houston, which, much like Detroit, everyone just assumes they're not going quarterback. They seem to be, for some reason, bullish on Davis Mills, and I'm trying not to, you know, let my saltiness of Davis Mills in my Pink Slip series carry over into real life. I mean, he was solid last year. He was better than expected. He was a big-time recruit at Stanford. I still think I would rather, if you told me pick and choose C4, you could have Davis Mills, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett. We'll just use those as an example for your quarterbacks. Davis Mills would easily be third on that list. So we have the Texans here grabbing a quarterback in Matt Corral. At pick 4, we have the Jets, and they should be like, oh man, we can get a pass rusher, and they go tackle. They just view Ike Ekwonu as the highest available player on their board, and George Fant, they just don't want him at right tackle. I think that could happen. Honestly, there's still a tackle at 4. Wouldn't be shocked if the Jets decide to go on the offensive line over a pass rush help, but I just think they shouldn't, which is why we're doing it in the mock draft. What shouldn't they do for a lot of these teams is what we're going to have them do. Pick 5 for the New York Giants, and I have them going Travon Walker. This pick, imagine, with Aiden Hutchinson slipping, Kayvon Thibodeau, work rate, effort issues slipping, and they go with the athlete. I just couldn't imagine if I'm a team that's interested in a pass rusher with Hutchinson and Thibodeau. This is essentially like you have the first overall pick going Travon Walker, but some team's going to do it. Some team, I think, if you polled all 32 teams in the NFL to rank their edge rushers, there are some teams that are going to have Travon Walker with athletic upside as edge rusher 1. So that's kind of crazy. Pick 6. So you have the Panthers here. And they're like, all right, man, maybe we go quarterback. Maybe we get Charles Cross. And then you just have the Carolina Panthers in this situation. They're just like, oh, we got to go best player available, which is Aiden Hutchinson. So they end up getting a player that's not that big of a need. He'd upgrade and start immediately over Gross Matos, but you still think there's a ceiling there with Gross Matos. They don't need an edge rusher, but they are a team that's, clearly trying to get this rebuild going as soon as possible. They seem to be confident in committing with Sam Darnold to a certain extent. And then they're just like, well, we had to go Hutchinson, BPA. And I think, that's actually probably the first pick that most of that wouldn't be too upset about. But it's not necessarily ticking off one of the boxes of an immediate need for the Carolina Panthers. Pick 7, we have the Giants back on the clock. And it wouldn't be just fitting then to get Kyle Hamilton, a guy that's free falling, depending on who you're listening to, down draft boards. And they'll just get it like, well, they still haven't graded out high. Some teams, much like Travon Walker, I guarantee, even though it does seem like a lot of people are like at least cooling the Jets a little bit on the Kyle Hamilton hype train, and I say that as I still got to finish my safety breakdowns. That's the only one. Shout out to everyone on my Patreon. We are all the way up to corners going in order. So since I last did a positional video, I think on wide receivers, tight ends, linemen, D linemen, edge rushers, linebackers, corners, all those rankings, pro comparisons and stuff are on the Patreon. I still got to work through safeties, but it does seem like, the prestige of Kyle Hamilton is wearing thin a little bit, and he's falling down people's draft boards, but the same goes. Is he's definitely not falling down all 32 teams' draft boards, so that'd be fitting of the Giants to still be super high and be like, I can't believe he's still here at 7, and then they pull the trigger. Pick 8, we have the Falcons here. And I really think, you look at this, Falcons switching to a 3-4, you could get Thibodeau as an edge rusher if they think he could play in the 3-4. Some teams might. You got Sauce Gardner here, and they end up going Derek Stingley. I feel like the pick here is, taking the risky player in Derek Stingley. Maybe he has the highest ceiling out of all the corners, but also the biggest question mark of a floor, taking him over Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner, if you are going corner, which will be a pick that is very much in play at pick 8 for the Falcons, not going with the safest pick, and that is Ahmad Gardner. And I'm eventually, before the draft, I'm still going to have more draft content, serious draft content, but I do plan on dropping my big board, and I got a couple surprises on the old big board. So I think Stingley to Atlanta, that'd be surprising. Pick 9, we have the Seahawks. Great picks, a lot of these guys, and they're going to go, well, we don't have a quarterback, so we're going to get Kenny Pickett. I feel like, given the board, yes, they need a quarterback, but if you tell me I'm at 9, I'm Seattle, Sauce Gardner, Kayvon Thibodeau's there, last thing I'm doing is picking a quarterback in a weak quarterback class, and that's what we have them doing. Because it could happen. Pick 10 for the Jets, their second pick, and again, we're at all right, you can get edge rusher, you can get corner. These are kind of the positions that some Jet fans are passing on with that 4th pick if they're doing a serious mock. And we need a wide receiver. Garrett Wilson's there. You can get the speed of Jameson Williams, the well-roundedness of Olave, maybe the versatility of Burks, and they end up getting Drake London, guy that has a specific skill set, jump ball. If you want to look at it on the bright side, he might be Mike Evans. He could be the next Mike Evans, but also there's legitimate separation concerns, and he opted out of running the 40-yard dash. A lot of red flags. Would not be drafting him, me personally, in the first round. I would get him in the second round like Michael Pittman, and that is not necessarily C4 hates Drake London. Michael Pittman in the second round, he's been a beast. T. Higgins in the second round, he's been a beast. Terrific players. I feel like the same is for Drake London. With his skill set, I don't know if I can make that first round investment and how fitting with the Jets to kind of just pick the wrong wide receiver out of all the wide receivers that are available. A little bit of like a Denzel Mims-esque situation there. Pick 11, we have the Commanders, and they go Desmond Ridder. Carson Wentz does not eliminate the Commanders from selecting a quarterback, and for some reason, Desmond Ridder is a lot higher on NFL boards than mine personally. I had him graded as like a late second rounder, but he's getting a legitimate first round hype, and that would be a Commanders thing. They're like, oh, well, let's get another scrambling quarterback. Let's get a guy. Wentz is kind of a Band-Aid type deal. get the insurance off the bench. If Wentz starts stinking the joint up, it's not a super strong NFC East this year. And they end up going with the quarterback Desmond Ridder. Pick 12, we have the Vikings. This is just like, at a certain point, got to kind of have a serious pick here. And we're going to have them get Sauce Gardner. They just get, and then we have Thibodeau going to Houston. These are like the free falls. This would be like, this is the 420 mock draft for teams that are in these guys' division. It's like, oh, come on. And also, it's the anti-Eagle mock draft because Philadelphia at this point are like, man, one of those guys might fall to us. And then they go at 12 and 13. Great picks for both those teams. Can't all be memes. 14, we have the Ravens, and I'm going to have them get Trevor Penning. Feel like all things considered right now, and I've had him mocked there in the past, but I think given the big board, if you are a Raven fan, I don't think you're thinking right tackle at this point, especially someone like Penning, who a little bit divide amongst the draft committee. People think he's going to be a penalty magnet, just draw a lot of flags, and he's coming from making that big jump from small school, and he'd have to pretty much essentially be like Villanueva's replacement right away on that offense, or Orlando Brown replacement right away. Maybe that's too many big shoes to fill, and you still have Charles Cross on the board. You could have, you're like, oh, we can't go Charles Cross because we have Stanley at left tackle, and Cross is a left tackle. Point being, this would be a bad pick if you're a Ravens fan. Given the board, you could go wide receiver, you could go Jordan Davis, and now we have Philadelphia at 15. And while I could go to sleep at night with this selection, it's the Howie Roseman smartest guy in the room draft pick. And while I would more like Pickens to a certain degree, equated to Drake London, where I love him in the second round, and I think I could live with Philly if they fall in love with Pickens. I think Pickens could be the best wide receiver in this draft when all is said and done. But that would just be the typical Howie Roseman smartest guy in the room. And you still have Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Olave, and we go George Pickens. So that could happen. After that, we have at 16, the New Orleans Saints. And they're going to get Sam Howell, the run-on quarterbacks. I think that is kind of what this anonymous general manager was alluding to when he said, throw your mock draft. I feel like that means there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks going in the first round. There's going to be a lot of teams that are just going to be investing. Not big, you look at this as premier draft picks, sure, but I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be investing not expensive contracts in guys that could amount to something at quarterback. So I think like if you're the Saints, I don't know if Jameis Winston puts me off 100% of a quarterback this year. And if some teams still have Sam Howell, who much like up here at Matt Corral, was regarded as like QB1, QB2 at the beginning of the draft season, everything's coming around full circle, I wouldn't be shocked to see Sam Howell be a first-round quarterback come draft day. That's all 420 aside. Pick 17, we have the Chargers, and here's where they just, another situation where like, we got to go BPA, and they get Charles Cross, and they just, not necessarily that's a bad pick, that's more in line with like a Thibodeau Gardner, where it's like, that's actually not that bad, but what they do is they create a little bit of drama, because you already have Rashawn Slater as your left tackle. Now you drafted the best player available, a fantastic pass blocking tackle in Charles Cross, but now you have two left tackles and no right tackle, so there's a little off-season drama that maybe the Chargers would like to avoid. 18 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, it's the 420 draft. So we have them drafting a linebacker, Devin Lloyd, who I think is far away right now the top linebacker in this draft class. It just doesn't happen. Philly does not value the linebacker position, so this will never happen. So that's why it's very fitting to get this pick in on this fantastic day. Pick 19. We have the New Orleans Saints. This one here is just kind of like, given the board that's up, they go Chris Olave. They kind of go the odd man out, the guy that's consistently a little bit lower than the other two top wide receivers left. I think they could go Ohio State, though. Maybe it makes Michael Thomas happy to have another Ohio State brother in there, and that could smooth things over. Seems like there's still a little bit of bumpy roads regarding Michael Thomas and the Saints organization. But I think if Garrett Wilson is, maybe Jameson Williams, they're different styles. If you don't think Williams can make we have some concerns over the injury and the recovery and the timetable. I do just think if you take, they're good players. I like them both. But if you take Olave over Wilson, a little suspect, but it could happen. 20, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to have them here get Jordan Davis. It's not really that bad of a pick. It's just, I think most Steeler fans are like, that'd be like a kind of pick for the Steelers. Like, oh, okay, well, our defense, in particular, our D-line, it's pretty good. I guess getting younger at the position, it's not a bad draft pick, but it would be kind of like a hype killer a little bit. I think a lot of Steelers are optimistic that they're going to make this pick. They're going to trade up. They're going to get a bigger time impact playmaker. And they get a guy in Jordan Davis that does have his, concerns, question marks, weight concerns, snap concerns. So that kind of, but ultimately that's not really that bad. That memey of a pick, I don't think. 21, we have the New England Patriots. This is just the meme for the rest of the NFL. Of course, the Patriots would somehow get these, consensus wide receiver 1 at pick 21 because they're the Patriots, and that's what they do. They just fall ass backwards into good things happening to them. 22, we have the Green Bay Packers, and here is where Packers are like, oh my God, we can get a wide receiver, have a bunch of wideouts here. And then this is actually something I've seen in other mock drafts. Lewis Cine from Georgia going safety. I'm not going to say safety's not a position that the Packers should be looking at, but I think between Darnell Savage, Adrian Amos, first round's probably not where I would invest in the safety market. You could go Dax Oak because he's more of a true DB. You get a little bit more flexibility there. But again, it'd be just the meme of the Green Bay Packers to have a lot of talent there at wide receiver, and for them to not to pull the trigger with that first pick, letting all these other teams get an opportunity to draft a wide receiver. 23, we have the Arizona Cardinals, and here's where I'm going to have them go and grab one of these wide receivers. They're going to get Treylon Burks, get that guy that can go in the slot, fill that Christian Kirk role, and I feel like if you're the Arizona Cardinals, you have much bigger needs, much bigger fish to fry on that roster than bringing in another wide receiver, at least at the premium position of your first-round draft selection. I think there's a lot of other areas they could go, and they just keep going offense because that's all Cliff Kingsbury knows. It's like, well, we're going to make the Kyler situation work. We're just going to keep giving him an all-star Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver room, and that's what we do, and I could see that happening. 24, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and this is the Dallas Cowboys getting Devontae Wyatt. Devontae Wyatt was outstanding at the combine. I still, in my scouting report, I was like, he was probably the most impressive player from the defensive line group on the on-field drills. And obviously, for the testing, he was outstanding. But there's a lot of reports right now coming out that there was a couple off-the-field incidents that may have teams completely throw him off the boards. And when that's the case, that means Dallas Cowboys kind of push him up the board, and that's just a Dallas Cowboy pick right there. 25, we have the Buffalo Bills. And here for the Buffalo Bills, I'm going to have them get a running back. And this is actually not really that bad of a pick. It's just you don't see it happening right now. You do not see running back going in the first round. I think that would actually not be the worst use of that pick 25. But I also think, and this is something that I actually kind of want to hear from the Buffalo Bills. I just know from the playoff run, I think that you still saw enough flashes out of Devin Singletary. I mean, he had a couple almost 100-yard plus games, like down the stretch. Maybe there's still something there. Maybe you can put all these a solid running back. But they could go Breece Hall for sure and just be like, this has to be the year. We have to go all in. We have to just be a juggernaut on offense. And Breece Hall is far and away the top running back in this draft class. 26, we have the Titans, and this is where they just kind of reach a little bit and get Tyler Smith, the tackle out of Tulsa. I think he could go in the first round. I have him graded as a first, second rounder. I just think given the board right now, that might be a surprising pick for the Tennessee Titans, but I absolutely think they could try to assess one of those tackle spots, especially the right tackle there. 27, we have Tom Brady getting Jameson Williams. This is much like the Patriots selection. There's a tie there where it's just like, oh, the Bucs just, they get another terrifying wide receiver. They don't need one. They absolutely don't need one, but this would be the most Bucs thing they can do. It's like, oh, we have this guy, the Jameson Williams, on our board. He was wide receiver 1. He's still available at 27. Why not just have Jameson Williams, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage? Let's have 7 wide receivers. Got to run the spread offense. And more so, it's the middle finger to the Packers here for not getting that wide receiver earlier. Just taking all the good guys off the board. So now the Packers are stuck. And they're going to get Christian Watson. They're going to gamble on the height, weight, speed. And you have their fans just can't believing the fact that they passed up on Treylon Burks and Jameson Williams, get a safety, and now they're stuck with a guy that's an absolute project, even though his ceiling is very, very high. You can't teach what Christian Watson brings to the table. 29 and 30, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. And first up, again, we have to have a good player go here. I'm going to have them get McDuffie, and then worst case scenario is that they invest a first-round pick on a guy that might be pigeonholed as a slot corner. I don't think measurables kind of line up to a certain degree with Jair Alexander, but there's also a chance, especially for the lack of length. Some teams, McDuffie might find his best success in the slot, even though he's played outside at Washington his whole career. And slot corner in the first round is not a good look, especially in hindsight. And then they're going to be like, well, we need a wide receiver here. And they have Jahan Dotson and Sky Moore, and they end up going Sky Moore of Jahan Dotson. I think Sky Moore is a second-round player. I think he's a nice slot wide receiver. I just think you get a lot more juice out of Jahan Dotson, a lot more versatility. And I think this is another situation where I wouldn't be surprised to see some teams having Sky Moore higher rated than Jahan Dotson. And I think that would make a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans unhappy. 31, we have the Bengals. And here's where you're like, all right, offensive line. We can go Linderbaum at center, Zion Johnson, Kenyon Green. A lot of options here. And they're like, well, we're going to just get a good corner. And they're like, all right, that's not really a bad pick. I'm sure Andrew Booth is probably be better having out there than Eli Apple. But you still, even with some of the investments made in the offensive line with Lael Collins and a couple other dudes, you got to still go O-line. Best O-line. Protect Joe Burrow. And they don't, because that's just, they don't like doing that. And then we finish at 32 with like all these guys slipping. Johnson, who's stiff as a board. I think he will actually fall a little bit. Karlaftis, jack of all trades, master of none. How do you really value that? You have Linderbaum undersized for a center. And then we have the Lions here just going with a 5'11 linebacker. N'Kobe Dean. Not really that bad of a pick. Could go in the first round. Probably wouldn't get memed or clowned too much. I just think, given the guys that are still there, the guys that have fallen, Dax Hill, all those plays, Kyer Elam, outside corner, they get a 5'11 linebacker in the first round. There you go. That is your 420 mock draft. It took about 20 minutes. Thank you very much for watching. Hope everyone has a happy day. I'll be joining. For those of you that don't have the adult responsibilities that I do, I'll be joining you later. Thank you for watching this video. If it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed more draft content, serious mocks, big boards. I'm probably going to do at least 1 or 2 more positional rankings videos. I don't know if I'm going to do edge rushers. I want to do the big positions. No one really cares about, interior D linemen. So I might do edge, might do corner, might do safety. I don't know. But if you want to see them right now, they're available on my Patreon for all subscribers from the lowest tier to the top tier. It's a great way to go above and beyond supporting my channel. And that'll do it for me today, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching. And peace out, my lady.